Okay. So welcome again, brothers and sisters in the Lord, for our lesson tonight regarding basic hermeneutics, principle of biblical interpretation. Ating course description, as we continue to do every now and then. In this study course, the student will be introduced to the basic principles of the biblical interpretation, know the importance of good translation, and learn to apply the basic principles to the different genre found in the Bible. Yung ating purpose, having completed this course, yung lahat ng student natin should be able, and that is what we are hoping and I'm expecting, na kapag na-complete natin ito, you are able to interpret any biblical passage using the methods presented in this course to provide a comprehensive overview of hermeneutical principles for reading, studying, understanding the Bible, which is the word of the Lord. Okay, responsibility, online class attendance, completion of home assignments, course and submittal to complete the study. Now, ating textbook, still How to Read the Bible for All Its Worth. At sabi ko nga, meron tayong 5 parte sa ating pong as our course outline to complete this course. Yung ating pong part 1, we talk about inductive Bible study. Doon sa topic na yan, we learn about Bible study methods, yung when we talk about yung observation, interpretation, and application. Okay, sa part 2, naintindihan natin yung basic principles of biblical interpretation, the importance of hermeneutics, the reader as an interpreter, the nature of scripture, the first task, exegesis, second task, hermeneutics, tapos exegesis, and then practice of exegesis. Sa part 3, kung saan tayo po nandito ngayon, ito po yung we talk about hermeneutical study, contextual study, content study. We learn about literary markers, yung word study, tsaka introduction to detailed word study, and then review of the course on part 3. Then, I hope we are able to enter this part 4 next week. Ito na po yung interpretation of different literary types about gospel, parables, book of Acts, and then epistles. Yung last part natin to end this course, yung interpretation ng Old Testament narratives, poetic books, Old Testament prophecy, at saka yung book of Revelation. So this is the overview, yung course outline na tinitingnan natin mga kapatid regarding our study about basic hermeneutics, principles of biblical interpretation. So lahat po ng mga natapos na nating session, naka-uploaded na po yan sa ating pong YouTube channel. So if you want to go back now and then dun sa ating pong mga napag-aralan na, you may do so kasi kailangan ninyong balik-balikan yung mga lessons natin kasi hindi natin ito maintindihan on one sitting, but it's important for us to go back to those videos para may remind tayo dun sa mga nakaraan nating mga sessions. Okay? Now, we will try to talk about again importance of context in word study. We ended last time, although hindi tayo nakapag-meet last time, we talk about yung importance ng word study when we are doing a contextual study. No? Hindi lang po natutunan natin yung how to make a contextual study in terms of what is the context, the section limit, then we talk about the unit points, and then how we are able to arrive yung mga important things. But then, napaka-importante po when we do a contextual study, yung tinatawag nating word study. Okay, na-discuss na natin somehow ito last week, but we will try to make again some, sabi nga natin, important things that we need to know to talk about this important thing, no, when we talk about the contextual study. Now, sabi natin last time, hermeneutics deals with the meaning of the verses. So dahil verses ang pinag-aaralan natin to, word for word tayo mga kapatid. Kaya napaka-importante that when we doing an hermeneutics, we are trying to do the meaning of each verses. Kaya nga, kailangan ng word study if we want to really know certain scripture or passages. No? The meaning of verses becomes clearer when we study the meaning of the different words that is used in those verses. So, niintindi natin yung bawat words. Maraming beses kasi sa ating pong pag-aaral na may mga words that we try to somehow na hindi natin binibigyan ng pansin. Pero napaka-importante po sa hermeneutics when you do a exegesis and you do a contextual study of a passage, na ang approach natin dito is we observe the words. Tinitingnan natin yung mga how it has been constructed, and at the same time, tinitingnan natin yung mga iba't ibang mga words that is used in those verses. At kung meron tayong makikita ng mga words na hindi familiar sa atin, no? For example, yung mga difficult words, then we need to look that in the proper meaning of it in its original text. Sabi nga natin, marami kong beses sinasabi sa atin na translation na po yung Bible natin. It is not the original manuscript. So we need to see all those words in English sa ating translation, sa English Bible natin, to the original words that has been used doon sa original text, whether it is Hebrew or whether it is Greek. So this is the reason why we study words. Kailangan nating word for word tayo mga kapatid. By studying the words that a writer uses, the meaning of verses becomes more comprehensible. At nasabi ko rin last time na meron pong mga sandali sa mga sa passages in the Bible that they use the same words but yung meaning ay nakasalalay sa context. Ipapakita ko sa inyo mamaya yon, no? A great example of this. Ibig sabihin, pag sinabing itong words na ito, hindi lagi yun ang meaning nun kapag ginamit sa iba't ibang mga writings. At makikita natin dito na kapag nilook natin ito sa original manuscript, marami itong mga meanings na na nagbibigay kahulugan doon sa meaning na yon. At alin doon sa meaning na yon ang magiging, sabi nga natin, right meaning, if it is what the author uses in that context. Kaya napakahalaga po yung word study kasi on that context, nandun po yung meaning nun. And then on the other passages, although the same word ay ginamit, pero makikita natin hindi na yun yung meaning na ginamit sa ibang context. But it is the same word. No? Ipapakita ko po yan mamaya sa inyo. Kaya napaka-importante po yung word study. So by studying the words that the writer uses, the meaning of the verses becomes more comprehensible. Okay? Though the most important factor in determining the meaning of a word is the specific context where a writer uses as word. Kaya pinag-aaralan natin lagi, we always do the context, no? Tinitingnan natin kung yung passage na yan, tinitingnan natin on the proper context. Ganun din naman yung every word. We try to see it on that context, kung paano ginamit ito ng writer. Okay, so yun yung napaka-importante dito. It is an important factor that we need to determine the meaning of the word in the specific context. No? Kaya nga dapat makita natin yon. A writer may use a specific word in different ways. Yun yung sinasabi ko sa inyo, no? Iisang salita, but the writer can use the same word in different ways in a different context. So maaring isang word pero iba-iba ang meaning later on. So we will try to do that, no? We will try to study that and I will show you that. So that is why it is the specific context of a certain word that determines its meaning. So naintindihan na natin yung specific context, how to do a context, kung ano yung context, ano yung unit thing or unit idea, no, it added to the word that it is being used. Kaya nga napaka-importante na yung certain word, what determines the meaning of that word is on the specific context, how the writer used it on that context. So in other words, the contextual meaning of a word defines its true meaning. So yung contextual meaning natin, nung nagkaroon tayo ng contextual study, yun ang nagdi-define nung true meaning ng word na yon, although ito'y patuloy na ginagamit paulit-ulit ng author. It doesn't mean na isang meaning nun. Kaya dapat nating intindihin na kahit same word, it may be it has different meaning in different context of a passage. Okay, I hope you're able to follow what I'm trying to say. But I will give you that, I will show you that in a great example. Okay. Last time, we talked about yung strong, yung mga strong number. Okay? Dito ipapakita ko sa inyo dahil wala tayong time last time to show this. So detailed word study steps using an English concordance and Greek dictionary lexicon. So dito, when you try to define and try to see the original word being used in the original manuscript, kailangan natin yung English concordance or we need to have a Greek dictionary and lexicon. So ano bang step na gagawin natin? For example, you have the passage. Okay, for example, Philippians chapter 2:12. Gagamitin natin po yung Philippians 2:12 dito sa word study natin. At yan din ang gagamitin ko mamaya, another example doon sa ating contextual study. Okay, same passage po. Gagamitin natin, Philippians 2:12. To show you regarding the word that we will try to see, na ginamit ito pa ulit-ulit, na merong iba't ibang meaning na ginawa yung author. Okay, but the same word. Okay? Now, the first thing that we need to understand, for example, if you have a verse, ito yung gusto mong iintindihin. Philippians 2:12. Okay, di ba? Mamaya, gagawa tayo ng contextual study. Ano ba yung context limit ito? Ano yung section limit ng Philippians 2:12? Gagawa tayo ng mga unit points, may unit idea, and then we'll try to have an interpretation, principle, and application of this. But before we do that, we need to examine first this verse. Kasi ito yung gusto mong intindihin, ito yung gusto mong i-interpret eh. Kaya we need to study the words of this verse. Okay? Now, sabi dito, identify the word to be studied. So, nan-identify mo na. Philippians 2:12 ang gusto mong i-study. Now, locate the word in the Strong Concordance. So, kung meron tayong English Concordance, kung wala, you go to the online, sa mga site na nagbibigay po nito, and take note of the number. Mapapansin niyo doon sa mga English na yan, merong number nasa itaas, on the right of the text. For example, di ba sa King James Version ng Philippians chapter 2:12, ang sabi dito, wherefore, my beloved, as ye have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. Mapapansin ninyo sa bawat word, merong strong number. For example, yung wherefore, merong G5620. Yung word na my, merong G3450. Yung beloved, G27. Yung as, G2531. Yung ye have always, yung is buong phrase na yon, G3842. Obeyed, G5219, and so forth and so on. So makita nyo, bawat word, merong number. Yun yung equivalent na strong number. Okay? So kung nakita natin ito, yan po yung specific na number na dapat nating tingnan. And today, what we will be talking about, since ang ating pong pag-aaralan is yung sinabi dito ni Paul that work out your salvation with fear and trembling. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng work out? No? Kailangan ba natin pagtrabahuhan ng salvation natin? Eh di ba naligtas na tayo, ba't kailangan natin pagtrabahuhan? So ano bang ibig sabihin ng workout na yan? Now, what do you mean by with fear and trembling? No, titingnan natin yung word study na yan ng fear and trembling. At dito ko papakita sa inyo na yung word fear and trembling, although iisa yan sa English, nung ginamit yan ni Paul sa iba't ibang mga writings niya, iba-iba yung meaning niya. Hindi siya pare-parehas. No? Kaya nga papakita ko sa inyo na kaya kailangan ninyong tingnan yung mga word na yan para kung ano yung meaning ng fear and trembling sa context na ito may be different on the fear and trembling sa ibang mga passages. Hindi necessarily na parehas siya. So pero kapag nakita mo yung fear and trembling, the same number. For example, sa ibang verse ninyo, nakita nyo rin yung fear na G5401, tsaka yung trembling G5156. It means to say that it is the same meaning, no? It is the same word. For it doesn't mean necessarily, mga kapatid, na it will be having the same meaning. Kaya nga sabi nga natin kanina sa guideline natin, yung contextual meaning is what determines the meaning of the word. Okay, so titingnan ninyo context, yun ang nagbibigay meaning dun sa word na yon. Okay, even though it is being used in different from now and then by the author. Okay, now, I hope na clear sa inyo, no? Yun yung mga number on the right above the English word. Okay, now that you have already located that in the strong concordance. Now, what do we do about this? Okay, so ang gagawin natin ngayon, use the number of the word in the English concordance. Titingnan natin yung number na yan. Kung meron kayong English concordance, tingnan nyo yung number na yon. At it will give you the Greek or the equivalent original word that has been used. So using the number at the right hand of the text, look for the Greek equivalent of the English word in the Greek to English index lexicon of the New Testament. So kailangan natin yung lexicon. Kaya nga sabi ko nga, you find a good site in the internet kung wala tayong mga lexicon to guide you in your word study when you do a contextual study. Okay, so look for the meaning of the word in the Greek dictionary or lexicon. And then when you done that, study the context of the word. No? Tingnan niyo po yung iba't ibang meaning na binigay doon. No? And then choose the meaning. Kasi kung mapapansin niyo, ang daming meaning na ibibigay dun sa word na yan. Ngayon, dahil ang daming meaning, what fits the context? Kaya yung context mo ang magde-determine nung meaning na yon. Okay, so doon yung makikita. So once you know the context, then it gives the right meaning of that passage, so interpret the meaning of the word. So that is the time that we will interpret the meaning of the word. Okay? Now, for example, this is the great example that I want to show you, na ginamit po yung fear and trembling in the different context, na iba-iba ang meaning. Okay? It doesn't mean na kapag nakakita tayo ng fear and trembling, iba, iyon ang ibig sabihin nun. Pero kung mapapansin niyo, ang daming mga passages na ginawa si Paul na marami siyang ginamit na fear and trembling, pero iba-iba yung kanyang meaning of it. Okay? Now, for example, in Philippians chapter 2, no? When we talk about our passage that we want to learn, sabi dito, continue to work out your salvation with fear and trembling, for it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill His good purpose. Now here, ang fear and trembling can mean reverential fear. Okay? So when you talk about fear here in this context of Philippians 2, ang sinasabi dito ni Paul sa context na ito is that we need to work out salvation with reverential fear through the indwelling Spirit of God. Yun ang ibig sabihin ng fear and trembling. Yung parang, di ba, the fear of the Lord. When we talk about the fear of the Lord, it is a reverential fear, no? It is it signifies awe and reverence, no? Yung sabi nga natin, when we talk about we are to fear the Lord, it means to say, it talks about we are to revere the Lord, no? It talks about reverential fear. Kaya yung context ng fear and trembling na ito, kasi mapapansin niyo dito, continue work out your salvation with fear and trembling. It is God. So, he's talking about God here who works in us. And then as God works in us, we have also to work with Him. No, with what? With fear and trembling, with reverential fear, no? Through the Spirit of God, through the indwelling Spirit of the Lord. So, tingnan naman natin, ginamit din ni Paul yung same fear and trembling in 1 Corinthians chapter 2 to 3. Mapapansin niyo, iba na yung meaning. Okay? Hindi na yun reverential fear. Pag it is not about God, it talks about now to us. No? So, I was with you in weakness and in fear and in much trembling. So, Paul here is not talking about God in terms of our relationship with God with reverential fear, with fear and trembling. But he's talking about himself, that in his life, he has also experienced fear and much trembling. No? In his weakness, he experienced also how to fear and tremble. So, fear and trembling here is probably used with the meaning of weakness. Kasi binabanggit niya dito, I was with you in weakness. And one of that weakness is he always have that kind of feeling of fear and much trembling. No? So it talks about a weakness, inferiority, humility, in contrast to the superior way of speaking. Na even though alam natin na akala natin si Paul is a very good writer and sabi natin namamangha tayo sa mga writings niya. But in many of his passages, he's not admitting that he's a great speaker. No? That he also have this weakness, that he is also somehow in contrast to the of having a superior way of speaking, Pero dito natin makikita that he is also experiencing that kind of weaknesses with fear and much trembling when he was talking and speaking about the word of the Lord, no? So dito natin makita yung fear and trembling dito, hindi na reverential fear. So it is more of a weakness of the person, yung kanyang inferiority and humility, but it is the same word, fear and trembling. Okay, nakita ninyo yun, no? The same word in English natin na sometimes binibigyan lang natin ng iisang meaning kasi English lang siya. Kasi pag nilook down mo sa dictionary yung fear and trembling, iisa lang ang meaning niya. Yun lahat yun din. Pero sa hermeneutics, although it is the same word, but when we do a word study, hindi siya pare-pareho. What determines the meaning is the context. Kasi ang context nung Philippians 2:13 is that God is working in you in His will and to act in order for us to fulfill His good purposes. That's why, because of that, we have to work out our salvation with fear and trembling. So it means to say, you have to work out your salvation with reverential fear. But here, hindi mo siya pwedeng gamitin yung reverential fear hito. Paul was talking about his weaknesses. So that weakness is more in the form of fear and trembling. It is somehow a weakness when it comes to Paul in the way he speak the word of the Lord, nandun yung inferiority niya, or somehow it is yung weakness niya having that kind of fear and much trembling. So so what determines that? Yung context. Yung context nitong 2 Corinthians 2:3 ay iba ang context ng Philippians 2:12 to 13. No, magkaiba siya. So ang nagdedetermine nung meaning ng fear and trembling is the context of the passage. Okay, so makikita natin magkaiba yung context. Another example, same, fear and trembling. 2 Corinthians 7:15. And his affection abounds all the more toward you as he remembers the obedience of you all, how you receive him with fear and trembling. Ganon din naman, no? He's talking about how they show this fear and trembling regarding Titus, no? When he visited this church, no? So here, Paul was talking about ang tinutukoy niya dito yung si Titus, yung affection ni Titus. Sabi dito, how he abound toward them, habang inaalala ni Titus yung as he remembers yung obedience ng lahat nitong mga taga-Corinth and how you receive him, kung paano nila tinanggap si Titus with fear and trembling. So ano sinasabi dito? Now, yung fear and trembling dito, kakaiba na naman dun sa kaninang nakita nating reverential fear or as a form of weakness. So what determines the meaning of fear and trembling dito sa 2 Corinthians 7:15? So fear and trembling here probably pertains to the intensive or complete submission and repentance that the Corinthians displayed before Titus. He's talking about Titus and the church in Corinth. So here, makikita natin yung fear and trembling here is probably yung ipinakitang submission or repentance that the Corinthian believers extended and displayed before Titus noong mga panahon na yon. So, ibig sabihin, mapapansin natin, itong 2 Corinthians 7:15, hindi yun yung fear and trembling na para nakita natin kay Paul that it is a weakness upon him. But then it is not this one ang sinasabi dito naman ni Paul sa 2 Corinthians 7:15. He used the same fear and trembling pero iba na naman yung meaning niyan. So what determines the fear and trembling is yung context naman. Ang context dito yung relationship ni Titus when it comes to the Corinthian believers when he visited them. So when they submitted themselves, they received Titus with fear and trembling. It means they submitted themselves to Titus, no? And that is what this fear and trembling here in this context means. So nakita niyo, no, sa word study nagkakaroon ng linaw yung same word. Kaya hindi natin pwedeng sabihin na iisa lang ang meaning niyan. Kaya mahalaga po yung word study sa contextual study natin. Another example, Ephesians 6:5. Slaves, be obedient to those who are your masters according to the flesh and with fear and trembling in the sincerity of your heart as to Christ. So iba na naman yung context na sinasabi ni Paul dito. Ginamit na naman niya yung same word, fear and trembling, pero in what context? So again, the meaning of fear and trembling here, sincere, is sincere, intensive, and complete submission. So it talks about, again, submission here. When it comes to the masters, no? When the slaves become obedient to their masters, with fear and trembling, it means to say, they have the sincere and intensive and complete submission to those masters. Okay, dahil ang binibigyan ng pansin dito yung relationship ng slave to the masters. Kanina naman si Titus at yung church. Yun naman kanina, more of Paul on himself regarding his weakness. Yun naman kanina natin, Philippians 2, nakita natin relationship of God, as God is working in you according His will, no? Then we have also to work out our salvation with fear and trembling. So it means to say, it talks about reverential fear. So iba-iba yung meaning of the same word. Dito natin makikita, mga kapatid, na when we look yung fear and trembling sa Greek, marami kayong makikitang meaning dyan. It may be submission, it may be reverential fear, it may be somehow weakness, kasi yun ang nakita nung lexicon na iba't ibang meaning. Now, what determines doon? Dahil nakita natin, oh, ang dami palang meaning nito. Merong reverential fear, merong weakness or inferiority, or meron namang submission and every blah blah blah. And then, alin dito ang meaning dito? Ang dami. So what determines the meaning doon? Yung context ng passage mo. Doon mo i-apply yan. Ngayon, mapapansin mo pala, itong 2 Corinthians 7:15, ang meaning nito is about submission, complete submission. Hindi ang ibig sabihin niyan reverential fear or weakness or anything, but it talks about that ito palang mga Corinth, when Titus, no, visited them. No, he remembers the obedience of these people, of how they received Titus with full submission, with complete submission or repentance, no? So sabi nga natin, so doon natin makakikita yung what determines ngayon ang meaning, yung alin diyan ang pipiliin natin doon sa lexicon, is that yung ating pong context ang magdedetermine ng meaning na yon. Okay? So I hope you are able to follow, no? So dito sa great example natin, napakita ko na iba-ibang meaning ng words. And what determines the meaning is yung ang context ng word kung saan natin pinag-aaralan. Iba yung what determines the meaning is the context, yung contextual meaning nung passage ang siyang nagdi-define ng meaning ng isang word. Okay? I hope you are able to know that. Now, let's have a great last example of contextual study. Pinag-aralan natin yung word study na Philippians 2:12. Yung palang word na fear and trembling means reverential fear. Now, we will try to know now, ano bang ibig sabihin ng work out your salvation? Okay, we are called to work out our salvation with reverential fear. Naintindihan natin yung word na fear and trembling. Now, ano bang ibig sabihin ng work out your salvation? Ano bang ibig sabihin nun? So, we'll try to see daw and try to do a contextual study. Ito yung magiging last example natin today before we move to part 4. Iiwanan na natin yung part 3 natin, all about contextual study, word study, and everything. I hope you gained already much understanding. Pangatlo na po itong example na ibibigay natin sa inyo. Okay? So, we will try to see this, no? At we'll try to know ano bang ang contextual study nitong Philippians 2:12. I hope you are familiar already the step by step of how to do a contextual study of a certain verse. Okay? Now, ano ba itong Philippians 2:12? In Philippians 2:12, what is the meaning of the clause, continue to work out your salvation? Kasi nalaman na natin yung meaning ng fear and trembling kanina sa word study natin. Now, ang hindi malinaw dito, ano bang ibig sabihin ng continue to work out your salvation? Okay, so do a contextual study of Philippians chapter 2, verse 12, then interpret the meaning of the clause, continue to work out your salvation. Now, our first step, ano yung first step natin? Determine what? The context, the section limit. O Philippians chapter 2:12, yan ang unang step natin when you do a contextual study. Saan ang hangganan ng pag-aaral ko ng Philippians 2:12? Upang magkaroon ng linaw itong verse na ito. So titingnan natin yan sa context niya. Okay? You cannot take a verse out of its context. Then it will become out of context talaga. Okay? In terms of its meaning. Okay. Now, technically, bago tayo pumunta sa section limit, itong Philippians 2:12, technically lang to, hindi ko sinasabi ito ang section limit, pero napakagandang i-observe. Yung technically speaking, the entire section, kung titingnan natin talaga ang entire section ng Philippians 2:12, is Philippians, nag-start siya sa chapter 1, verse 3, hanggang chapter 2, verse 30. Kaya kung titingnan natin at pag-aaralan natin yung Philippians 2:12, kailangan natin tingnan yan dito sa pinaka-entire section nito, yung technically speaking. Although mamaya sa contextual study natin, hindi natin i-consider ganyang kahaba. Okay? But then technically lang, napakagandang intindihin ito dun sa entire section context. And it belongs to chapter 1. Ganun kahaba yan, mga kapatid. Chapter 1, verse 3 hanggang chapter 2, verse 30. Bakit ko sinabi? Kasi kung mapapansin niyo yung chapter 1, verse 3 hanggang chapter 2, verse 30, merong main theme or idea na pinaulit-ulit si Paul sa mga verses na nakapaloob sa chapter 1, verse 3 hanggang chapter 2:30. At ang word na yon ay yung rejoicing or rejoice. Kung mapapansin ninyo, sa verse sa chapter 1 verse 18, chapter 1 verse 24, chapter 2 verses 1 and 2, chapter 2 verse 17 to 18, chapter 2 verse 28 to 29, makikita ninyo yung Paul uses the theme of rejoicing. So Paul writes with two, sabi nga natin, yung sinusulat niya dito sa mga passage, sa mga verses na ito, he's talking about the subject of rejoicing. Pinaulit-ulit niyan. And di ba sabi nga natin sa pag-aaral natin last time, what will help us to determine the section limit? Study the words. Kung pinauulit-ulit yung word or idea, kasama yon sa ating pong context ng ating pag-aaral. But in the larger view, okay, kung titingnan natin larger view na makakatulong din sa atin, although hindi nga natin ito i-consider yung ganyang kahabang contextual study mamaya natin, but then napakaganda rin na tingnan ito in the larger context. Kasi pinaulit-ulit ni Paul yung word na rejoice, rejoicing dito sa mga verses na ito. So when he talks about rejoicing, Paul made it in the two major concerns. So dito sa mga verses na ito, chapter 1 verse 3 hanggang chapter 2 verse 30, although there is the main idea concerning about the subject of rejoicing, pero ginawa niya in two major concern. May dalawang major thing, no, that we have to put in mind when he used this theme of rejoicing. And what are the two, sabi nga natin, major concerns here? First, he wants the Philippians to rejoice and not to be worried about his imprisonment and possible execution. Alam natin that when Paul was writing Philippians, he was in jail. And there is a possibility for him to be executed in his imprisonment. That's why when he was writing here, he's talking about that they need still to rejoice even though he is in prison, but the gospel is not in prison, no? He wants the Philippians to know and he wants them to rejoice and not to be worried about himself, no? Not to be worried about his imprisonment and possible execution. That is the first major thing when he talks about this, they need to rejoice, no? That they don't need to be somehow bothered of his condition, but they need still to rejoice, no? Yung second idea dito, yung major thing is that, sabi dito, is not also, when he used the word rejoice here in this larger context, he also wants them to make his joy complete by pursuing unity in the midst of their experience of persecution and suffering. If you will study this larger context, Paul was encouraging the people to continue to go on, that they need, that in spite that they need to be like Paul, that in spite of persecution, that even though that he is suffering for the gospel, no, he continued to have that joy in his heart to share the gospel. And that is what he is also encouraging the people in those times, that make my joy complete even though I am in prison. But so you need to be united in the midst of this persecution and suffering that you are having at that time, no? Because of the gospel. So, kung mapapansin ninyo, yung Philippians 2:12 natin, hindi nakapaloob dun sa unang part. Hindi siya pasok doon. No, he's talking about that he wants the Philippians to rejoice and not to be worried about him. But itong Philippians 2:12 natin na gusto nating intindihan, pasok siya doon sa second major thing. And that is that he was telling to the Philippian believers that even though he is in prison and there's a possibility for him to be executed, make my joy complete, sabi niya, by pursuing unity, that you have to be one, you have to be united in the midst of this as they experience persecution and suffering. So, dito po Philippians 2:12 natin falls on the second concern. Yun yung concern. Dalawang concern, di ba? Yung concern niya na about sa mga Philippians, no, regarding himself, the concern niya sa kanyang buhay, that the Philippians need to rejoice and they don't need to be worried about it. But yung second concern niya is about how the believers, no, needs to somehow to rejoice still, no, to make that to make his joy complete by pursuing unity in the midst of their persecution and suffering for the gospel. Okay? Now, so that is yun yung magandang intindihin, although mahaba siyang pag-aaral talaga, pero maganda rin tingnan kasi sabi nga natin, nandun yung idea of rejoicing, inulit-ulit sa mga verse na ito, at kasama doon yung Philippians 2:12 natin. Okay? Now, although napakahaba yon, but we need to establish now the section limit, the actual section limit of Philippians 2:12. Kung titingnan ninyo sa mga Bible ninyo, if I am right, sabi ko nga natin, depende yan sa mga translations ninyo. It may be more or less, yan ay determine nung nag-translate niyan. Pero kung pag-aaralan natin ito, masasabi natin na ang section limit ng Philippians 2:12 starts from verse 27 of chapter 1 and it ends on chapter 2 verse 13. So yan po yung section limit ng pag-aaral natin kung gusto ninyong intindihin yung Philippians chapter 2 verse 12. So ito yung ating verse that we want to study. And we want to know ano ang meaning yung work out your salvation. Okay? On this section limit. Okay? Now, bakit hindi po kasama yung, sabi nga natin, nag-umpisa tayo doon sa verse 27 lang. Okay? Bakit hindi isinama yung mga ibang verses sa chapter 1 before verse 27? Okay? At bakit hindi naman din sinama? Okay? So bakit hindi natin isinama naman, no? So bakit natin paano naman makikita? Sabi nga natin, nag-umpisa ang study natin sa verse 27 lang. Okay? Now, bakit hindi kasama yung verse 12 up to verse 26? Kasi 27 lang ang start ng ating section limit study. Okay. Now, bakit hindi natin sinama yon is because kung pag-aaralan mo yung verse 12 to 20, Paul was talking about his imprisonment and the good things happening outside the prison walls despite his imprisonment. So kung pag-aaralan mo yon, Paul was talking about himself, yung kanyang imprisonment, that in spite na siya ay nasa prison, maraming magagandang bagay nangyayari, no, outside the prison. Yun nga yung ini-elaborate niya dito sa mga verses na ito. That is talking about the good things happening outside the prison even though is despite that he is in prison, no? So he's talking about that, no? Yun yung context ng 12:20. Doon naman sa 21 to 26, no? Iba nag-shift din siya. Hindi na yan ang sinasabi niya sa verse 21 to 26. Nag-shift na si Paul. Now, ang kanyang sinasabi naman sa verses 21 to 26, it is about his desire both to be with the Lord if he will be executed in prison or to stay alive for more fruitful labor. So he was contemplating here that there is a danger for him to be freed, or there is also a danger for him, the option for him to be executed. So both, sabi niya, nandun yung desire niya for both to be with the Lord, no? Na to be the Lord, to be with the Lord, sabi nga natin, and that includes, no, whether he will be executed or he will still stay alive, uh, to continue the work or to the labor of sharing the gospel, no, to the Gentile nation. So dito makita natin yun yung context niya, no, nag-shift na siya, no, hindi na siya he's talking about his imprisonment and the good things, pero dito sa 21 to 26 he's talking now his desire, no, he's talking about his desire for both to be with the Lord whether he will be executed or not, and that his desire is always to be with the Lord. Okay? Now, makikita natin dito, kaya hindi siya kasama sa context. Kasi, yung ating pong context naman, ito yung ating context where we nakapaloob po yung Philippians 2 natin kanina, mapapansin natin, na kung mapapansin natin yung context ng nag-shift na siya sa verse 27. Nakita natin yung kanina, no, na he's talking about his imprisonment. Yung pangalawa, nakita natin his desire to be with the Lord. Pero nag-shift na siya sa verse 27 up to chapter 2 verse 13 kung saan nakapaloob yung ating verse na chapter 2 verse 12. Okay, ano yung concern niya dito? Ano yung main idea of First Corinthians, yung ating chapter 1 verse 27, Philippians chapter 1 verse 27 to Philippians chapter 2:13. Paul now subject changes. Nag-iba yung subject niya. Ang focus ngayon ni Paul dito sa ating pag-aral where our passage belong is that not more on himself but on the Philippians. Kasi mapapansin natin dun sa verse 1 before verse 27, yung verse yung kaninang pinag-aralan natin after verse 26, he's talking about himself. But nag-shift na ngayon siya sa verse 27 that the focus is not on himself anymore regarding about his imprisonment, but to the Philippians. No, that's why kaya makikita natin dito yung word na conduct yourselves. He's talking about now to the believers that they have to conduct themselves what they need to conduct with, or what is something that they need to conduct. So it also a new subject is introduced. He talked about in verse 27 that they have to conduct themselves in one spirit, in one mind, striving together, na nakita natin sa chapter 2 verse 2. So, yung buong context na yan, yung section limit ng 127 and then to 213 kung saan nakapaloob yung sinasabing work out your salvation with fear and trembling, ang main idea and main concern dyan is about unity. That you have to conduct yourself as one body, as one mind, having one spirit, that you have to strive together in the midst of persecution and suffering. So he's talking about now here unity as being conducting themselves as one. Okay? So dito, makakatulong doon pa lang, yung palang Philippians 2:12 natin, when he talk about working out your salvation, may kinalaman sa unity. Kasi yun yung main idea na tinutumbok niya doon eh. So when they work out when they work out their salvation with fear and trembling, with reverential fear, God expecting them in the midst of these sufferings, that as they act to the will and to the purpose of God, they have to be united. They have to be one mind. They have to with that they have to strive together with the fear of the Lord, with reverential fear. So yun po yung makikita natin. Wala pa tayo doon sa malalim na contextual sa atin. Doon pa lang mahuhuli na ninyo na dahil ito ang main idea ng 27 to 13, he's talking about unity here. So may kinalaman pala yung unity na ito doon sa verse na pinag-aaralan natin, sa chapter 2 verse 12. Yung work out salvation. May kinalaman sa unity pala yon. Kasi yun yung main idea nitong context na ito. He's talking about that they need to be one spirit, one mind, that they have to strive together. Okay? Now, hindi na sinama yung chapter 2, 14 to 18 kasi Paul starts to encourage the Philippians on more general issues. Nag-shift na naman siya. Kaya hindi na sinama sa contextual limit natin yung nasa baba after verse 13. Hindi nakasama yung 2:14 to 18 because Paul was encouraging the Philippians now on more general issues that they need to do all things without grumbling sa chapter 14 as verse 14, that they had to hold fast the word of life in verse 16. So iba na yung issue, iba na yung sinasabi dito ni Paul. He's not talking about unity or being one spirit and one mind and striving together. So iba na siya. So hindi na siya kasama. So ang section limit natin ng Philippians chapter 2 verse 12 is Philippians chapter 1, nag-umpisa sa chapter 1 verse 27 to Philippians chapter 2 verse 13. Okay. So na-determine na natin. So the word "so then" in verse 12 also signals the conclusion of the section. Mapapansin niyo sa verse 12, "So then let us work out our salvation." So yung word na "so then" doon, nagko-conclude na si Paul. Di ba natin, makikita natin yung when we talk about the, sabi nga natin, we have to determine yung mga literary markers na kapag nakakita na tayo ng mga "so then", "therefore", nagko-conclude na siya. So ibig sabihin, hanggang dun lang yung section limit kasi magbabago na siya sa susunod na verse. So nakakatulong sa atin yung mga literary marking, no, literary marks ng mga words na dito mapapansin natin na masasabi na natin na yung verse 13 hindi na talaga siya kasama. Kasama siya sa 13 kasi yun na nga yung conclusion niya. Pero yung verse 14 hindi na yon kasi nga nag-conclude na siya sa verse 13. So nag-umpisa sa verse 12, "So then", it means to say it signals the conclusion of the section. So kaya starting verse 14 ng Philippians 2, iba na yung subject niya. So doon pa lang makakatulong na yun sa inyo. Kaya tinuro ko sa inyo yung mga literary markers, no? Tingnan niyo po yun, mga inclusio, mga connecting words or yung mga words na yan, nakakatulong yan sa atin mga kapatid to determine yung ating section limit. At dito, dahil ginamit yung word "so then" sa verse 12, ibig sabihin nagko-conclude na si Paul doon sa sinasabi niya. At pagkatapos nga noon, magi-start na siya ng panibagong subject or theme. So it helps us now to say na dahil nabanggit niya sa verse 12, yung verse 13, yun na yung conclusion niya. Nagko-conclude na siya sa verse 13. Okay, so yung 14, iba na siya. So there are also literary markers. Yung nga sinasabi ko sa inclusio, which can help us confirm our section context. No? Dahil yun nga yung isa sa mga literary markers dyan, yung the word "so then". At yun ay makakatulong sa atin to confirm our section context. The same thing, kung mapapansin natin, kung pag-aaralan ninyo yung chapter 1, verse 27 to 30, parang there is a repetition of it in chapter 2. Okay, verse 12 to 13. Yung 27 to 30, may parang hawig siya sa sinasabi niya sa chapter 2 verse 12 to 13. So ibig sabihin, kung yun ang sinasabi niya sa chapter 1 27 to 30 at yun din ay parang inuulit niya sa chapter 2 verse 12 to 13. So magkasama siya. So ibig sabihin, ito talaga ang section limit na ito kasi binibigyan pa rin niya ng pansin the same thing. Paano ko nasabi? So verses 27 to 30, anong sinasabi niya dito? So verse 27, "Conduct yourselves worthy of the gospel." So he is talking about that the Philippian believers should conduct themselves worthy of the gospel. Kung mapapansin niyo sa verse 12 ng chapter 2, ganun din ang parang sinasabi niya. Just as you have obeyed, so obey also now, no? Yung para bang before they conduct themselves and obedient to the gospel, ganun na naman, inuulit na naman ni Paul yan sa verse 12. Just as you have always obeyed, sabi doon. So obey also now. Doon naman sa verse 27, "Then, whether I come and see you or remain absent, that they have to conduct themselves worthy of the gospel," even though Paul will not be there or he will be there, it will be the same thing for them. Whether I come and see you or remain absent, they have to conduct themselves worthy of the gospel. Ganun din ang sinasabi niya sa Philippians 2:12. Not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence. He's talking about his absence and also his presence, no? So, parang parehas siya. So, it means to say talagang makikita mo dito pag tinignan natin yung literary marking dito, masasabi natin na it helps us to determine na talagang ito ang section limit nito. No, magkasama talaga at pareho yung up to 27 up to sabi nga natin Philippians chapter 2 verse 13. Okay? Salvation, Paul was talking about salvation in chapter 1 verse 28. Ganun din ang he's talking about salvation in chapter 2 verse 12. Sabi doon, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. So also in chapter 1 verse 28 is talking about salvation for you from God. It is a salvation that comes from the Lord. And sabi din ni Paul sa chapter 2 verse 12 that work out your salvation with fear and trembling because it is God who is working with you. So that our salvation comes from God. So that you have to work out the salvation the way God is working in you. No? And so doon makikita natin may pagkakahawig siya. So dito it helps us to determine the section limit na talagang ito talaga ang limit niya. Magi-start siya sa verse 27 and then it ends on verse 13 of chapter 2. Now, ano yung section main point? So na-determine na natin. Ang section limit niya starts sa anong start? Verse 27, chapter 1, and then ends on chapter 2, verse 13. At ang pinag-aaralan natin, Philippians 2:12. Now, ano yung section main idea nitong section limit na ito? Ano yung main idea na binabanggit ni Paul dito sa mga verses na ito? From verses 27 to chapter 2, verse 13. State the main idea into 2 or 3 sentences. The unit main points of Philippians 2:12 is make my joy complete by pursuing unity in the midst of your persecution and suffering. Yun ang binibigyan ng pansin dito ni Paul dun sa limit na yan. From verse sa chapter 1 to 27, kung saan nakapaloob yung ating pong chapter 2 verse 12, ang binibigyan ng pansin dito ni Paul, yung pinaka whole idea nitong section limit na ito, is ang sinabi niya, make my joy complete even though I am in prison, sabi niya, but you make my joy complete by pursuing unity in the midst of your persecution and suffering. So dito pa lang sa main idea natin, main point, may kinalaman na yung 2:12 natin when it comes to pursuing unity in the midst of the persecution and suffering. So doon na natin makita na dito pa lang wala pa tayo dun sa ating pong unit points. May kinalaman pala ang 2:12 doon sa pinaka main idea na dito pala ang binibigyan pansin ni Paul is to pursue unity in the midst of persecution and suffering. So kung yun pala binibigyan ng kahalagahan ni Paul, may kinalaman yon doon sa verse na iniintindi ko. May kinalaman ito sa working out our salvation with fear and trembling. So doon pa lang makikita mo na mga kapatid, lumalapit ka na doon sa meaning ng word na yun kasi unti-unti na nagkakaroon ng linaw kasi doon nakapaloob yung Philippians 2:12 natin, yung work out your salvation at ang main idea doon is pursue unity in the midst of persecution and suffering. Okay, natatimin na natin yung unit main idea natin. Now, we go now to the next step. Divide those verses into different subunits. Sino ang mga verses na magkakasama? So, we divide the whole unit into subunits. So, as we study those verses, we can say na ang magkakasama verses 27 to 30 of chapter 1, chapter 2 verses 1 to 4 ay mag-isang unit. Kasi nag-shift na naman siya ng iba on Philippians chapter 2 verses 5 to 11. So yun ang makakasama. And then yung last unit natin is Philippians 2 verses 12 to 13. Kung saan nakapaloob yung verse natin na gustong intindihin. Philippians chapter 2, 12. Okay, so determine na natin yung mga subunits natin based on the whole sa malaking unit, dinidivide natin yan. And then, kagaya din nun, sa ginawa nating unit main point, ano ang mga point na ini-establish dito sa mga unit points, subunits na ito. So gagawa tayo ng unit idea, ng mga subunit idea based on this grouping. Ano ba sinasabi niya sa 27 to 30 regarding pursuing unity in the midst of suffering and persecution? No, how does he establish that on these subunits? No, so yung para bang ito na yung parang di ba present ka ng introduction mo, ito yung pine-present mo na that we have to continue pursuing unity in the midst of sufferings and persecution. Now, how did you say that? Bakit mo nasabi yun? Ang magsusupport kayo yan, itong mga unit point mo. Ito ang mag-establish ng main idea na yan. So lahat ng mga main idea, yung subunits idea, contributed dun sa pinaka-main idea. Parang yun yung general kasi yon, parang general siya, main unit siya, pursue unity in the midst of persecution and suffering. But how? Bakit? Paano? So, dito, ang magbibigay linaw doon, ito mga subunits point mo. So ito preaching na ito, parang ito na yung parang body of your message na ito mga kapatid eh. And then later on you interpret it and then you do an application and take the principle, yun ay present mo sa tao. So I think it is the right way, no? When we teach, when we preach, ito na po yung magdadala sa atin para talagang makaka-preach tayo, makakapagturo tayo ng talagang meaning ng word. When we do this kind of method or making a contextual study of it with all those word study and everything, no, it will help us. Now, determine na natin yung Philippians 1:27 to 30 magkakasama, 1 to 4, 5 to 11, 12 to 13. Now, after making that, having that subunits, you have to make the subunit points. Anong sinasabi niyan sa mga verses na yan, sa mga subunits na yan? Okay? Now, subunit points state the subunit main points of the units in one or two sentences. Isa-summarize mo siya. And those main subunit point contribute to the main point. Ha? Dapat ninyong intindihin, yung main point mo sa taas, ang nagko-contribute nun, itong mga subunit. Ang nag-i-establish nun, itong subunit main point mo. May kinalaman yung subunit main point doon sa main point mo. May main point idea mo siya. Okay. Now, let's see now. Ito po yun. Group natin siya 27 to 213 into 4 groups. At ang main idea natin, make my joy complete by striving your faith or salvation through your unity in the midst of persecution or suffering. Now, bakit magkakasama ang 27 to 30, verse 1 to 4, verse 5 to 11, verse 12 to 13? Ano ba sinasabi sa 27 to 30? Standing firm in unity. Ang sinasabi dyan ni Paul, they need to stand in unity. They have to be firm, standing in unity. The establishes your faith or salvation and destroys your opponents who make you suffer. So he's talking about that subject. Dito sa verses na ito, they were called to stand firm in unity. They have to establish their faith or their salvation and destroy their opponents, no, who make them suffer. Okay, so that is what Paul was talking about in these verses. So nag-shift siya sa starting chapter 2. Ang sinasabi naman niya, he's talking also about unity here. No, kung mapapansin niyo, bawat group na yan, he's talking about unity, no? Making them one mind and one spirit, no? He's talking about unity, that they have to stand firm in unity doon sa unang group. Sa pangalawang unit point natin, verses 1 to 4, the way to unity now is by regarding others more important than yourself. Isa, di ba nagkakaroon ng disunity kapag when you regard yourself more than important than other people? So doon nagkakaroon na ng mga division, no? Nagkakaroon ng sigulot kapag yung pinapairal mo yung sarili mo na mas mataas ka sa mga ibang member mo, and then yung tinitingnan mo yung sarili mo mas mataas sa kanila, and that is already dividing or making disunity. But sabi nga ni Paul, for you to be united, the way to unity is you regard yourself more than regard others more than yourself. And by looking onto the interest of others, not only looking unto yourself, unto your own interest. So he's talking about unity again, no? In this. Now, he shift again in verse 5 to 11. Now, how do we achieve now unity? The way now to unity is to treat other people more than yourself, sabi niya. But how do we achieve that? Have the attitude of Christ, no? Dapat magkaroon tayo ng attitude of the Lord, who although He is God, no? He did not grasp to be equal with God, but empty Himself and look for the interest of others by dying on the cross for them. Di ba? Yun yung sinasabi niya sa Philippians 2, no? That you have to be like Jesus Christ. That although he is God, he see himself equality with God, but he emptied himself, took the form of being like us as a servant, that he is, sabi nga natin, obedient, even obedient to the point of dying on the cross, no? Kaya nga sinasabi dito ni Paul, you have to become like Jesus. You have to become, to achieve unity, you have to have that kind of attitude of Christ, that how he looked for the interest of others by dying on the cross. So he's talking about unity here, becoming like the Lord. Then yung verse natin nakasapaloob ngayon, so then, nagko-conclude na siya, so then, dahil you have to stand firm in unity so that you may establish your faith, and for you to be united, and the way for you to have that unity is to regard other people more than yourself. Look unto the interest of others and be like the Lord. Yun yung sinasabi niya sa next point niya. Who did not make himself considered equal with God, but he emptied himself. So now, therefore, so then, nagkukonklud na siya sa verse 12 natin. So conclusion pala yung verse 12 natin. So then, work out your salvation. Ang ibig sabihin pala niyan, mga kapatid, is talking about unity here. So work out your salvation is to strive for your faith. You have to pursue unity. To work out salvation is to pursue unity. To work out your unity among yourselves with fear, with reverential fear. Why? Because God Himself is working in you to make you will and work out your unity. So he's talking about unity pala here, mga kapatid, when he talk about, hindi pala pagtatrabaho natin yung salvation natin. Kaya nga, paano nangyari yun? Save na ako, bakit ko i-work out yung salvation ko? Yung palang salvation dito, although the word has been used, no? Ang working out our salvation pala is after our salvation. Now, what is God calling us now after our salvation? You have to work it out. Work it out what? You have to work out and strive for your faith, and that you are able to pursue unity among yourselves, no? Because if not, then that sabi nga natin, ito yung magiging problema, no? Kapag nagkakaroon tayo ng disunity, and kaya nga, is talking about division also, no? In Corinthians, no? So I believe to work out salvation has something to do about unity, kasi yun yung binibigyan ng pansin dito ni Paul sa section limit natin. So wala siyang kinalaman sa working out our salvation para ma-save ka. No, it's not about that. He's talking about now that we need to strive our faith the way we have been saved. And that is how to pursue. We have to strive and pursue that kind of unity among ourselves with fear and trembling, with reverential fear, because God is working in the midst of us, no? That He is the one who's making us, and He's working all it all according to His will, and He is working out that unity within us. So, yun po yung makikita natin. So, ang interpretation pala natin ngayon, okay? Interpret now the verse in relation to the main idea at the main point unit, tsaka yung subunit where the verse is located. Now, the clause in Philippians 2:12, ito na po yung meaning, is a conclusion. Kaya nga, so then, it is a conclusion na binibigyan. And what is that? So then, continue to work out your salvation. Bakit? Ando na yung reason sa taas, no? That they were called to stand firm in their unity, no? Nandun yung the way to unity is to look unto the interest and do not look yourself more highly than other people. You have to become like the Lord in this attitude that He humbled Himself, no? Sabi nga natin, so yun yung mga reason why we have, and then therefore, so then, you have to continue to work out your salvation. So what Paul was trying to say here is part of the unit and subunit of 2:13 that exhorts that the Philippians is to strive or defend their faith or salvation from their opponents by working out unity among themselves. No, nakita natin 'yun sa doon sa unang unit point. Ang ibig sabihin pala doon is that Paul is exhorting the Philippians to strive and to defend their faith or salvation from their opponents by working out their unity among themselves. They are to work out unity by looking onto the interests of others and not merely their own. Unity among themselves will preserve their faith and salvation in the midst of suffering and persecution caused by their opponents. So yung unity among themselves ang magpe-preserve ng kanilang faith, ng kanilang salvation in the midst of sufferings and persecution caused by their opponents. Thus, the phrase work out your salvation in its context means to work out unity by regarding others more than important than yourselves so as to preserve your faith or salvation in the midst of persecution and suffering. They must work out unity among themselves in fear and trembling, in reverential fear. Why? Because God Himself is at work in them to make them will and work out this unity. Na hindi sila nag-iisa when they work out these things. It is God Himself who will work out that unity within them. Kaya they need to strive. They have to work out that kind of salvation, and that working out of salvation means to work out that unity. And how they do that? By not regarding others more than, by not regarding themselves more than others, no? They have to preserve their faith in the midst of persecution and suffering. And I believe that is the right meaning of it. So dito nagkaroon tayo ng linaw, no? Nakita natin dito by doing this kind of thing, nagkaroon ng linaw ngayon, nagkaroon ng meaning yung work out your salvation in the context kung ano yung binabanggit dito. So, marami na akong nakarinig ng mga preaching about working out the salvation na hindi ito sinasabi. No? Ang layo. So, out of context yung mga preaching na ganun. Kasi kung mapapansin natin ang section limit niyan, ito ang sinasabi niya. He's talking about unity among the believers. That they have to become like Jesus, and they have to work it out by regarding other people more than themselves, looking unto the interests of the other people. They have to strive that. Kasi ang dami pong mga churches ngayon na nagdi-divide because just simply they regard themselves more highly than other people. Yan ang nagkokos ng disunity within the church. Kapag nagkakaroon tayo ng mga ganyang bagay, mga kapatid, expect that you cannot really be united as one body. Kaya nga sabi ni Paul, naintindihan ni Paul na in the midst of persecution, ang dali nila talaga na magkawatak-watak. But sabi ni Paul, make my joy complete, no? By pursuing unity among yourselves, no? That in spite that you are persecuted and suffering for the gospel, no? You have to work out and strive your salvation out of your faith by being united, one spirit, no, in one mind, no, in the midst of your persecution, so that you may able to, sabi natin, defeat your opponents, no? And then, how do you work it out, no? Sabi niya, then you need the way for you to be united is to treat other people more than yourself, no? Look unto their interest, not yourself. Because if not, then it will divide. Then I believe. And then so why I have to do that? So how do we do that? By being like Christ, by having the attitude of Christ. You need to become like the Lord, even though He is God. He don't see Himself equal with God, but He humbled Himself. He looked unto the interest of others more than Himself, no? That He's willing to die for them. So then now, because of that, you have to pursue now your unity. By what? No, by work out your salvation, your faith, by striving for pursuing unity among yourself, because with reverential fear, because God is also working with you. It is God who is working with you to attain that unity. So that is what Paul was trying to say here in this context, mga kapatid. So that makes clear now what is the meaning of working out our salvation. So ang principles nito, ano ang principle? There are at least two clear principles dito sa ating section limit. At least two clear principles. First, the faith or salvation of a group of believers who are threatened by external opposition and suffering from persecutors is further secured and established by maintaining unity among themselves. So ang sini-establish dito ni Paul sa principle natin is that yung salvation natin as believers, no, as a group of believers, nati-threaten siya ng mga opposition and suffering from our persecutors. Paano natin ma-overcome yan? Ang sabi ni Paul. If you want to defeat your opponent, sabi niya, he's talking about the persecution, yung mga persecutors natin, how to defeat them? You have now to establish and maintain yung unity among yourselves. Yun po yung sinasabi ni Paul dyan. He's talking about to defeat your opponents. Yung opponents dito, yung mga nag-o-oppose sa kanila, yung nagpe-persecute sa kanila, no? And for them to overcome those who are threatening them by this external opposition and suffering from their persecutors, they need to secure and establish themselves by maintaining the unity among themselves. So that is the first principle. Second principle, the way to maintain now the unity among yourself is regarding others more than important than yourself. Look for the interests of others. Selfish interest or lack of interest is a sure way of spawning division. Yan po ang main cause niyan, mga kapatid, bakit nagkakaroon ng division sa mga churches. Nandun yung mga selfish interest, walang submission, no? Ayaw nila magpatalo, no? Even mga kapwa leaders, no? Sila mismo hindi sila nagkakasundo, na umiiral kasi yung mga sarili ng interest, no? Not even considering the interest of others. So ano nangyari? Dahil di magkasundo, nag-divide, no? Nahati yung simbahan, na yung kalahati napunta doon sa isang leader, kalahati napunta doon sa pangalawang leader. So I believe it starts how we need to look others more than yourself. Because that is what the attitude of Christ is. He looks unto the interest of the people, not on himself. Diyos siya, no? So, ito yung mga nilalang niya din. Hayaan lang niya naman, pariwara ang buhay ng mga nilalang niya. So, kung Diyos naman siya, no? Pwede niyang gawin yun. But then, hindi yun si Lord, no? Even though He's God, that we are just mere creation of the Lord, He's willing to die for us because of His love for us. So, He's looking unto our interest more than His own interest. So, that is the way we see here. And that is what Paul was trying to say here. He's talking about maintaining the unity. And how do we maintain down? You have to preserve that unity by looking others more than yourself, look unto the interest of them, and have the attitude of Christ. At yun po yung sinasabi niya dito. Okay, yun po yung principle na sinasabi niya dyan. Okay, an application. How to divide the church. Pag natapos natin dito, may enough time tayo, 30 minutes siguro, we can have some question and answer. Okay? Kasi matatapos na po ako. How to divide the church. Long ago, Paul gave an important formula for maintaining unity in the church. At yun ay makikita nga natin sa Philippians 1:27 to 2:13. In Philippians 2:1 and 4, Paul taught that the way to maintain unity is by regarding others more important than ourselves and by looking for the interests of others. Doing the opposite is a sure way of promoting disunity and division in the church. And that is what we can see that. So kung hindi natin gagawin yon at hindi natin ma-maintain yung unity by regarding others more than important ourselves and looking to the interests of others, then we are promoting disunity and division in the church. It is sad to say that one of the most common causes of church divisions is not doctrinal. Alam niyo po ba bakit marami naghihiwalay ng mga churches? Hindi doctrinal Personal in nature po. Hindi lang nagkasundo yung dalawang leader. No, siguro hindi nagkasundo sa isang bagay. Hindi naman doctrinal talaga Mga personal issues, kaya nagdi-divide ang simbahan dahil sa mga leaders natin na hindi marunong magpasubmit. That they are looking unto themselves only. Ayaw magpatalo. No? Ayaw magpa-submit sa ibang kapwa leader nila. So leaders, hindi doctrinal ang issue. It is more personal in nature. Leaders or influential people inside the church prioritize selflessly their own needs, their own interests and advancement more than others. This division in churches have greatly weakened the faith of some believers. Okay? Some have entirely stopped attending the church dahil nakikita ng mga tao na yung mga leaders natin parang hindi nagkakasundo, parang nawawalan ng gana ang buong simbahan umattend pa, no? Why they need to go back into the church, no? Instead that they go back into their former life. Kasi parang ano to, mga leader namin parang ganoon. So and you are being seen by the members. So ano mangyayari? It has an effect to our believers, to our members in the church. So Paul's exhortation in Philippians 1:27 to 13 is always relevant. Let us preserve unity in the church at all costs by looking in the needs and interests of others and not merely our own. Ganun kasimple lang po yung application based on the principle that you have. Parang i-apply mo lang yung principle na yon in the context of the church na parang i-explain mo sa kanila yung itong as I have presented here that why Paul says that work out your salvation in unity and in reverential fear. And it means that let us preserve that unity in the church, no, at all costs, with reverential fear by looking into the needs and interests of others and not merely our own. Okay, that's it. Let me stop sharing and let me stop this.